Hi, everybody. Todd Nash, Senate District 29, giving an update from the legislative session here in Oregon, the 83rd, and we're in and up the sixth week. We're rounding out the sixth week here. Um, Talk about some of the things I was involved in this week. We just finished a hearing here with Senate Bill 985 and 777. And those were the wolf compensation bills. One was a simple fiscal ask for $2 million. The other one changed the program to where you can get compensated on a multiplier rather than just a per animal basis. And we think it's a good way to draw people back into the program again that haven't been involved, both in the wolf conservation management plan and compensation in general. And I won't go into a lot of details on that, but I do want to say I really appreciate all those individuals that traveled clear across the state and all corners of the state to come here and testify. Some of those folks that have been depredated and dealt with that, where their emotional scars are still very raw, and they got up and testified, told their story, did such a great job. I couldn't be prouder of all of you for doing that. We did have some opposition from the environmental community. They call themselves stakeholders in this, and I'm not sure why. If you're a stakeholder, you have to have something to lose. And in this case, there's no loss on their part. And so it's really disappointing to see them get up and testify against ranchers that are suffering loss and don't want to see them adequately compensated. And even what we're asking for isn't adequate enough to patch those emotional wounds that are there, to compensate for the weight loss of the cattle, the conception rates, the added management cost. We're not even coming close with what we're asking in 777 and 985, but it's a step in the right direction. And really, again, thankful for everybody there. We had a full 90 minutes of testimony on that, and I think it went exceptionally well. SCR 12 was to acknowledge Robin Church from Union County. She's been a long-serving clerk in that county and has been recognized both at the state and federal level. We wanted to put a resolution forward here at the Capitol to honor her, and we had a hearing on that this week. Went very well. That'll go to the floor. That'll go on the Senate floor next Tuesday, and I'm glad to carry that. One that's a little less serious, and I've mentioned it before, but SCR 13, and that's the T-bone steak, and that made it out of committee, and that'll be heard on the floor of the Senate. And I had the president of the Senate give me a shirt that's appropriate for me representing that next week as well. So that might be a little bit fun to watch that. I had some students come from University of Oregon. They're environmental law students and environmental policy students, and they came and talked about some of the bills that they wanted to advocate for. Very concerned about plastic bags and the use of plastic, and I agree with them. I would rather see paper bags used. It was so ironic that the next people in to see me for an appointment were mill workers from a pulp and paper mill, and these were young people that were fairly small in stature, and then you had these great big mill workers come in, rough, tough guys, and they both wanted the same thing. Let's use paper instead of plastic, especially here in Oregon. Let's quit polluting, and usually on polar opposite sides of each other, but I told the Pulp guys, I said, you need to track those students down because they're speaking the same language you are today. And so that was really fun to be able to see that back to back. Um, Rodeo bill. And so many of you participated in this. You wrote comments in. And so there was a Senate Bill 771 that I'm chief sponsor of. And that would give $5 million toward grants that would go to Business Oregon, could be applied for around the state if you have a rodeo, community rodeo, with a population in your area of less than 12,000 people. And that's gotten quite a little bit of attention. That's got a lot of traction here recently. Looks like we have a good shot at getting that. And so I know from my area, people from Chief Joseph days, Eastern Oregon Livestock, Elgin, Ukiah Rodeo, and there were more, showed up to either testify or put in written comment. Really appreciate that. All of these things that we do down here, we need your support to make it happen, because it doesn't have relevance if it's just us advocating for it. I can't tell you how important it is for you to put comments in and to show up to testify. Oregon Cattlemen's Association was here in the building on Tuesday, and they went through and provided some lobby work on what their priorities were, and it's fun to have them there, of course. Housing, there is a number of housing bills out there, and two of my fellow senators on the Republican side had housing bills that ironically mirrored close to what one of mine did. And so we got together and we are amending those into one, but Senate Bill 940 is the one that's going to be eventually amended and put forward, and that's the one that I chief sponsored. And what that would do would be to give allowance to have not only another ADU, but we wanted to take the ADU language out. So an accessory dwelling unit, ADU, is generally considered 1,000 square feet or less. And we wanted to bolster that up to 2,500 square feet, to make up to 2,500 square feet, and make that really a home that somebody could live in. We felt like you could put that alongside an existing home that is maybe on farmland. Maybe you have one home on a 160. You could put an additional one right next to it and we have language in there on how close it needs to be. But we think that you could do that without harming the farm or ranch, and maybe accommodate for more housing, which we need all over the state. And rural areas have different needs than what the metropolitan areas do. So an attempt to do that, we think it's a good bill. We think it maybe has a little bit of traction. We continually get pushback from some of the people that say that they're there to protect farms and ranches. And but anytime we do anything to try to augment the income or to bolster and help out those individuals on those farms and ranches and keep them there, sometimes we get pushback from some odd places. But we're doing well on that, and hopefully we get that across the finish line. The landowner preference tag program, and talked about this a few weeks ago, and we got a work session on that got out of the work session, and that'll be going to the floor of the Senate, and look forward to passage of that, doing away with that sunset so that is in permanent statute. That program has been there since 1981, and every 4 years it's had a sunset. And we think that we're going to get that across the finish line, and that'll be permanent. So that's a good little victory to get that one behind us. I've gotten phone calls, letters, emails from a lot of you concerning federal employees and the curtailment of their work, firings. and it is concerning. And for those individuals that are in those situations, um, I I apologize that this is going on kind of indiscriminately. I think there's a better way to do this, to trim down federal government. Some of the very best and brightest are getting curtailed out there and fired. And so if there was a way that we could go in there and pick out the ones that we really wanted, we could probably do some real good at this point in history. But for those that have just transitioned out of one job and into another, and maybe even move their family, puts them in a really precarious place. And so, if you know individuals that are in these situations, you feel like they have a valid place within federal government and are helpful in our state and in our country, please be specific in when you email or talk to me so that I know how to address that. We've had some success when getting some people hired back on. We are not federal legislators, but we're here to help if we can help bridge that gap between our federal partners and those individuals. Um, with that, I'm going to wrap this up. It's been a long week. It's been a super busy week. There's so much more going on than what I just laid out here. But I am incredibly thankful to be able to do this job and hopefully be a benefit to Senate District 29. So that have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week.